On December 11, 2008, federal agents walked into a Manhattan penthouse and arrested one of the most respected men on Wall Street. He had managed money for banks, charities, universities, and some of the wealthiest people on the planet. He had served as chairman of the NASDAQ stock exchange. He had spent decades building a reputation so solid that people begged him to take their money. His name was Bernie Madoff, and he had stolen all of it. $65 billion, the largest financial fraud in human history. And for 17 years, almost nobody noticed. Here is how he did it. Chapter 1. The Beginning. Bernard Lawrence Madoff grows up in Queens, New York. His family is working class. His father runs a sporting goods store that fails. His mother briefly registers as a broker-dealer with the SEC and then quietly disappears from the record. Money is tight. The lessons Madoff absorbs early are simple. Respectability matters, appearances matter, and the financial system rewards people who know how to work it. He is not a genius. He is not a prodigy. He is disciplined, charming, and relentlessly patient. In 1960, at age 22, Madoff founds his own firm using $5,000 he saved from working as a lifeguard and installing sprinkler systems. Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities starts as a penny stock trader operating on the fringes of the market. His brother Peter joined soon after, then his wife's relatives. From the beginning, this is a family operation. What Madoff understands before most is that the future of trading is electronic. While traditional brokerages still rely on face-to-face transactions on physical exchange floors, Madoff invests early in computer systems that allow trades to happen faster and cheaper. He helps develop what will eventually become the NASDAQ exchange. By the 1970s, his market-making business, the legitimate side, is genuinely excellent. He is a real Wall Street player with a real reputation. This matters enormously, because when the fraud begins, the legitimacy of the market-making operation gives it cover that pure fraudsters never have. Chapter 2. The Switch. Nobody knows exactly when the fraud starts. Not even prosecutors. The official story, the one Madoff eventually tells investigators, is that the Ponzi scheme began in the early 1990s when a market downturn made it impossible to deliver the returns he had promised clients. He simply started using new investor money to pay old investors. That is the textbook definition of a Ponzi scheme. But evidence suggests it started much earlier. Some investigators believe the fraud began as far back as the 1970s. A former employee later tells the FBI that she never saw a single legitimate trade executed on behalf of investment clients during her entire time at the firm. The structure Madoff uses is built on a deliberate separation. His investment advisory business, the side that manages client money, operates on a completely different floor of the Lipstick Building in Midtown Manhattan from his legitimate trading operation. The 17th floor houses the fraud. The 19th floor is where the real business runs. The two floors barely interact. The investment advisory side employs a small and carefully controlled staff. Most of them are not licensed securities professionals. They process paperwork, generate fake account statements, and communicate with clients. The actual trades, the ones that appear on statements, are fabricated retroactively. Staff look at historical market data and construct a record of trades that would have produced the promised returns. Then they print the statements. No real trades are ever executed. Chapter 3. The Strategy. Madoff's cover story is a trading strategy called the split strike conversion. The explanation is technical enough to sound sophisticated, but vague enough to be unverifiable. The idea is this: he purchases shares in large, stable companies. He sells call options against those shares to generate income. He buys put options to limit downside risk. The result, he tells clients, is a steady return of 10 to 12% annually, regardless of what the broader market is doing. It sounds almost too good. But that is the genius of it. Madoff's returns are not spectacular. They are consistent. Spectacular returns attract scrutiny. Consistency attracts trust. A hedge fund promising 30% annually raises eyebrows. A fund delivering 10 to 12% every single year in up markets and down markets feels safe. Reliable, institutional. This consistency is itself the tell that almost everyone misses. Markets do not behave that way. No legitimate strategy produces smooth, steady gains across bull runs, recessions, crashes, and recoveries. The very thing that makes Madoff's fund feel trustworthy is mathematically impossible. Several people notice. One of them notices very early. Chapter 4. The man who knew Harry Markopolos is a financial analyst in Boston. In 1999, his employer asked him to reverse engineer Madoff's strategy and replicate it. Markopolos sits down with the numbers. Within 4 hours, he concludes that the strategy cannot work. The options market Madoff claims to be operating in is not large enough to accommodate the volume his fund would require. Either the returns are fabricated or Madoff is running a Ponzi scheme. Those are the only two possibilities. Markopolos submits a report to the SEC. The agency does nothing. He submits again in 2001. Nothing. He submits a third time in 2005 with a 21-page document titled, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." He names Madoff explicitly. He provides a detailed mathematical breakdown. He describes the mechanism. He asks the SEC to act. The SEC sends 2 junior examiners who spend a few days at Madoff's office. They find nothing wrong. They are not looking at the 17th floor. They accept Madoff's explanation for his strategy. They leave. Between 1992 and 2008, the SEC investigates Madoff's firm 8 separate times. They never discover the fraud. Chapter 5. The Network. Madoff does not advertise. He does not cold call. He does not run marketing campaigns. He waits to be approached, and in many cases, he turns people away. This is another layer of the strategy. Exclusivity manufactures demand. Being rejected by Madoff makes investors want in more desperately. His fund is positioned as a private arrangement, available only to those with the right connections. Getting access means you are in the right social circle. And once you are in, you do not ask too many questions, because asking questions implies you do not belong. The money flows in through feeder funds, investment vehicles that pool client money and funnel it to Madoff, sometimes without the underlying investors even knowing where their money is going. These feeder funds charge their own fees on top of Madoff's, profiting handsomely from the arrangement. One of the largest is run by Fairfield Greenwich Group, which places over $7 billion with Madoff. Tremont Group, Banco Santander, HSBC, BNP Paribas, major financial institutions all funnel money in. The legitimacy of these institutional names further cements Madoff's credibility. If HSBC is invested, what is there to worry about? The client list reads like a roster of the global elite. Steven Spielberg's charitable foundation, Elie Wiesel's Foundation for Holocaust Survivors, dozens of European banks, Palm Beach country clubs whose members essentially socialize their way into the fund, entire Jewish charitable networks. Madoff is deeply embedded in that community and specifically targets it, a pattern that will later add a layer of particular devastation to the aftermath. Chapter 6. The Scale. At its peak, Madoff's operation is managing somewhere between $17 and $65 billion in client accounts. The $65 billion figure includes fictitious returns, paper profits that never existed. The actual cash taken in from investors is estimated at around $17 billion. That money does not disappear into complex financial instruments. It sits in a single Chase Manhattan bank account. Madoff runs what is functionally a very simple operation. Money in, fake statements out. Money used to pay redemptions when clients want their cash back. New money used to cover old obligations. For the scheme to survive, 2 things must always be true. New investors must keep arriving, and existing investors must not all try to withdraw at once. For 17 years, both conditions hold. Chapter 7. The End in September. 2008, Lehman Brothers collapses. The global financial crisis begins. Markets fall sharply, and investors everywhere panic. They need cash. They start redeeming investments across the board. In November and December of 2008, Madoff faces $7 billion in redemption requests. The account that has been sustaining the entire operation has around $300 million in it. The gap is unbridgeable. For the first time in decades, there is no way to keep the plates spinning. Madoff tells his sons Mark and Andrew, who work in the legitimate trading operation and claim to have known nothing about the fraud, that the investment advisory business is finished. He describes it as one big lie. His sons contact a lawyer. The lawyer contacts federal authorities. The next morning, FBI agents arrive at the penthouse. Madoff does not run. He does not resist. He opens the door and tells the agents he has been expecting them. Chapter 8: The Aftermath. On June 29, 2009, Bernie Madoff is sentenced to 150 years in federal prison. The judge receives over 100 victim impact letters before sentencing. The losses are staggering and deeply personal. Retirees who kept their entire savings with Madoff find themselves with nothing. Charities that depended on their Madoff-managed endowments collapse overnight. Elie Wiesel's foundation loses $15 million. The Palm Beach community, where Madoff had cultivated his social network for decades, is decimated. The trustee appointed to recover assets for victims, Irving Picard, spends years pursuing clawbacks, suing investors who withdrew profits before the collapse, to recover money for those who lost everything. The legal battles continue for over a decade. Madoff dies in federal prison in April 2021 at age 82. Chapter 9: The System. The question that lingers is not how Madoff did it. The mechanics are not complicated. A Ponzi scheme is one of the oldest frauds in existence. The question is how it lasted so long. The SEC failed 8 times. Licensed auditors signed off on accounts without verifying trades. Major financial institutions conducted due diligence that somehow missed what Harry Markopolos identified in 4 hours. Smart, experienced people handed over money without asking the questions that would have unraveled everything. Several explanations exist, and all of them are partially true. The SEC was underfunded, and its examiners lacked the expertise to catch sophisticated fraud. Feeder fund managers had financial incentives not to look too closely. Investors were blinded by returns, by social trust, by the comfort of knowing other wealthy people were in the same fund. The very sophistication of Madoff's legitimate operation made his fraud harder to see. Nobody could believe that the chairman of NASDAQ was running a Ponzi scheme. But there is a simpler explanation underneath all of this. People believed what they wanted to believe. The returns were good. The statements arrived on time. The name was right. The club was exclusive. Nobody wants to be the person who asks uncomfortable questions about an arrangement that is making them money. Madoff understood this better than anyone. He did not steal $65 billion through technical genius or brilliant innovation. He stole it through the oldest mechanism in human psychology. He told people what they wanted to hear, and he never stopped.